Donald Trump has accused Democrats of sedition, which is punishable by death, he says, except sedition in this country is not punishable by death, although he later retruthed someone saying that these Democrats who called on the military to defy illegal orders were traitors, and another individual that said, hang them, George Washington Wood. When asked for comment, the White House walked it back, saying the president doesn't want to kill Democrats, but of course, that's not how it's being taken because Democrats are already apoplectic, with Chris Murphy saying, it's just remarkable to come from a Democrat federal level politician, but pick an effing side. But this, I'll just say, watching this go down, I can only say there's no off ramp. I don't know. I'm going to save it for the show, I guess. But man, I got so much to say on this statement, the sentiment, the Democrats call in the first place. How we got to this point. Democrats are playing this game where they've come out and said Trump's orders are illegal. They pause. Then they say defy illegal orders and act like they didn't just tell the military to defy the chain of command. It's getting particularly weird. So we'll talk about that. Plus, we've got a bunch of other weird stories. Crockett, the Democrat, Jasmine Crockett, she said, here's a list of people who also got funding from someone named Jeffrey Epstein. And then, as it turns out, she goes, I didn't mean the Jeffrey Epstein. I meant Jeffrey Epstein. Legit. She found people who had the same name and then used that to accuse Republicans of being funded by Epstein. That's how psychotic politics has become. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, we got a bunch of other stories, some crazy stuff going on in Utah. CBS reporting that there may be evidence missing in the Charlie Kirk assassination case, which is very strange. And we'll talk about that and more. Before we get started, my friends, we've got a great sponsor for you. It is Field of Greens from Brickhouse Nutrition. This is good stuff, my friends. We got it right here. It tastes great. I got strawberry lemonade. It's got your veggies. You drink them. Do doctors have Black Friday sales, my friends? The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition do. They just announced their Black Friday 30% off sale. The biggest sale of the year. The most impressive health and nutrition products in the industry are now 30% off. Like 30% off creatine designed just for women to help women look leaner, in shape, and toned without extra dieting or exercise. Or even 30% off Field of Greens, the only superfruit and vegetable drink shown in university study to actually slow aging. Only Field of Greens promises better health results. Your doctor will notice. Every Brickhouse product from Better Sleep to Superior Collagen is 30% off. But hurry, because these Black Friday deals go fast. Visit BrickhouseSale.com. Save 30%. That's BrickhouseSale.com. One more time, BrickhouseSale.com. Check it out. I'm a big fan. It's good stuff. Don't miss out. And don't forget to smash that like button, but also head over to Timcast.com, click join us, and get in the Discord community because unity is our strength. And right now, it's getting pretty dang weird out there. If you believe the work we do is important, if you think this show should continue to exist, then you have to become a member at Timcast.com of our Discord community because without you, this wouldn't work. We've got the 6 p.m. co-host show on the Discord. We've got the 10 p.m. uncensored members call in. You as members of the Discord get to call into the show and talk to us. And tomorrow we have the backstage pass for our members where you get to watch the whole pre-production process live and our pre-record. See us hanging out, doing the graphics. We're talking to you. You're learning a bit about how things go, but you get to hang out backstage, legit. And I will say this because I mean this legitimately. If it were not for our members, there would be no show. And so I hope you all consider that. If you think this show should exist, then we ask you, pay what you will. Become a member at $10 a month or more and make sure it continues to exist. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, of course. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we have Joel Webbon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
I am a pastor of a local church that's north of Austin, Texas, far enough away to not have the police defunded, but close enough to where people can commute and drive and have a job. So I pastor a church there, and then I do a bunch of media stuff. You can search it on YouTube, Right Response Ministries, or you can follow me on X at Right Response M as in Ministries.
Right on. And of course, race car extraordinaire Cody Dennison is joining again.
I'm back. You just couldn't get rid of me.
No, he's here forever now. He was sleeping under the desk.
Yeah, I was just walking around. Tim's like, you got to be on the show if you're going to stay here. Like, all right, I guess so.
Work requirement for all welfare cases.
Exactly, yeah.
So, of course, quick introduction for those that aren't familiar.
Yeah, I race cars in circles. I also have a channel on YouTube called Camelot331. I'm on Twitter, Camelcast Off, and I drive the Timcast car in ARCA and in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
It is, sir, an honor and a privilege to sponsor you and the vehicles to see the big Timcast. I can't remember where I was. I was at a bar and they had Fox Sports on or something like that, and we're watching it, my wife and I, and people are watching the race, and there's a car with big old Timcast on it, and I'm like, man, this is crazy. And then the video game comes out, NASCAR 25, and there's four circuits, four series, and two of them have Timcast vehicles in them. It is an honor, sir. I really do appreciate it. So thank you for being here. It should be fun.
Awesome. My pleasure.
Raymond is here.
Thank you for having me, Tim. I'm Raymond G. Stanley Jr. I'm the resident blue collar here at Timcast. I do things, United States Marine Corps veteran, and some might say a good guy. Before I pass it to Phil, Joel, this past Sunday was the first time I went to church voluntarily.
Oh, cool.
It was a really good experience. Everyone was very welcoming and nice, and it was just a good time. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It was pretty neat.
Other times were someone like twisting your arm to get you to go or something like that?
Yeah, well, someone died, or my parents made me go, or something like that. Yeah.
Terrible reasons to go to church.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Before we do, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to castbrew.com, you may notice you can buy pool water right now.
Ooh.
That's right. I'm not going to make it that easy for you. You've got to go to castbrew.com. It is now available for order. Pure, refreshing artesian water, 12-ounce glass bottles packed in 12-bottle cases for $24.99. It may take some time to get. Shipping's probably pretty hefty, but we made it. It's available, and if you want bottles of pool water, you can drink it if you want by purchasing at castbrew.com. There's only 778 cases available. And we'll restock after the fact, but we're not intending on having millions of bottles of this or anything. It's kind of a gag product, and we've gotten so many emails demanding it. We said, okay, let's get it going. I believe if you order it now, it may take a couple weeks to get. I'm not entirely sure, but just understand it's small batch gag product available for purchase, and you can buy it now.
It's not private pool water, right? It's not public pool water, I mean.
It's absolutely privately sourced pool water. That's right. All right, here's the news from CNN, and this one's rough. Everybody's trying as hard as possible to not say that Donald Trump called for the death of Democrats, but I think it's fair to say that he did. We can't pull our punches here. CNN reports Trump accuses Democratic lawmakers who urged military to disobey illegal orders of seditious behavior, punishable by death. Okay, so here's what Trump truthed. He quite literally just truthed seditious behavior, punishable by death. However, that's not necessarily in reference to anything, so we don't know exactly what he's saying, except he also retruthed this. At P78 on Truth Social said, hang them, George Washington would. And it's an article from the Examiner saying Democratic veterans in Congress urge service members to refuse unspecified unlawful orders. The result of which is, this is Chris Murphy from Connecticut. He is a sitting senator with 1 million followers saying, pick an effing side. I'm going to play this clip for you, but I want to make one thing clear so you can understand how we've come to this point. Democrats are doing what I call the Tweedledee Tweedledum statement. We've talked about this in terms of death threats. Someone will say something like, all Nazis should die. Then the guy next to him points to Raymond and says, he's a Nazi. No single individual called for death or instructed you to kill somebody. But when you see these two statements made side by side, it is a death threat. You just can't prosecute either of them because both of those statements are protected speech. What the Democrats are doing right now is they've been blasting across the internet. Everything Trump does is an illegal order. Deploying Marines, illegal. National Guard, illegal. Then they come out later and say, defy illegal orders. When people rightly say, you are telling people to be insubordinate, you're calling on the military to defy the chain of command, they go, no, it's a legal requirement to defy illegal orders. But they're doing the Tweedledee Tweedledum statement. Now, the result is this. Here's Senator Chris Murphy.
The President of the United States just called for Democratic members of Congress to be executed. This is not normal. We cannot allow this to feel normal. This, as far as I know, has never happened before in the history of the country.
I just need to interject real quick. We did have a civil war where the president was arresting politicians from states he did not like and suspending habeas corpus and sending literal troops into other states to kill people. And then you had Sherman's March to the Sea. So please, for the love of all that is holy, good sir, read a history book.
Every Democratic member of the Senate and the House, their life is in jeopardy right now.
Okay, I got to go back because this is...
of the country. Every Democratic member of the Senate and the House, their life is in jeopardy right now, especially those that were specifically targeted by this social media post. Democratic senators and House members who were simply saying that no member of the military should act illegally or in violation of the Constitution. The President of the United States just called for members of Congress to be executed. If you are a person of influence in this country,
Oh, that's us.
maybe it's time to pick a fucking side.
I did.
If you are a Republican in Congress, if you are a Republican governor, maybe it's time to draw a line in the sand and say that under no circumstances should the President of the United States be calling on his political opposition to be hanged. We are at a very dangerous moment right now. The President is engaged in the wholesale incitement, endorsement, and rationalization of political violence in this country. This is a very slippery slope that we are on. This is a moment for people to step up, for Republicans to step up, for business leaders to step up. Anybody who has a voice or a soapbox in this country,
That's us.
Yeah.
needs to draw a line in the sand and say that it is not acceptable for the President of the United States to call on the murder of his political opposition.
Well, firstly, he didn't call for the murder.
Yeah.
And I think this is an important distinction. Not that I agree with Donald Trump saying on X or on Truth, reposting the hang them or anything like that. But saying someone should be criminally charged and face the penalty of those charges is very different from calling for the murder of them. But I will stress this. The penalty for sedition is up to 20 years in prison, not death. That's why this is like, whoa, pump the brakes there, buddy. Now, I do think it's fair to point out Democrats have been playing the circuitous semantic game for a long time, advocating for violence, celebrating assassinations, lying about Jeffrey Epstein, and instructing the military to defy the chain of command. Let's not forget, and this is Trump's fault for hiring Milley, but Milley bypassed the chain of command to contact China. We have already seen the lines breaking. Democrats have a responsibility, and they are certainly playing dirty games. I have no problem criticizing Trump, saying this is not the appropriate way to handle it. But, hey, it takes two to tango.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely hate Chris Murphy.
Yes.
There are very few people in the Senate that I dislike more than him, and everything that I want to say about him after that point is a violation of TOS. So
Save it for the uncensored.
We're waiting for
I cannot stand him. I hope he stubs his toe every single day for the rest of his life.
I hope it gets a hangnail.
There is nothing good about that
Legos.
guy. He is just absolute garbage.
I don't want to wish the worst of things on my enemies, but a hangnail's pretty severe.
He's got to be as hysterical as possible, right? So if there's anything, like we talked about the other day, if there's anything you can grab as a position of attack, it's this, and to act absolutely hysterical, to drum everybody up in my opinion, it's going to be really hard to get normal citizens to really care about, the poor politicians, they're scared now. No one cares anymore. We're tired of people being hysterical and over the top, trying to garner a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of a reaction. And it does work. It totally works on the left. Everybody will be like, oh, woe is me, until something like with Charlie Kirk happens. Then for some reason, normal people on your Facebook feed are celebrating it. And he says, this has never happened ever in the country. In 1804, pretty sure Aaron Burr killed Alexander Hamilton, and in 1806, I'm pretty sure Andrew Jackson killed Charles Dickinson. So, I mean, these things have totally happened, but you're being hysterical about it,
Not to mention the people who celebrate John Brown.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, violence is kind of the history of this country.
Yeah, 100%.
Constant turmoil and fighting over borders, boundaries, lands, territories. We owned Mexico for a period, and Polk gave it back. People
Sold it.
He sold it?
Sold it.
He sold it back?
No, I'm sorry. We owned it. We bought it back from Mexico when we actually got it back from them, because Polk gave it back to Mexico, and then the U.S. got it back from.
No. You misunderstand.
We owned part of Mexico.
We owned a huge chunk going way down the Gulf.
My bad.
And he was like, "Yeah, we don't want it. You can get it back." And the Americans were like, "Whoa, we won that through war, bro. This land." But we got California, so I guess that was good for a while. Now I don't know how I feel about it.
Can we return it?
Do we have a receipt? That's what they have a receipt.
Let's go to the customer service department, please.
Aliska Slotkin, she needs to get her slotkinned. I don't know. I served in a time where we were normal world. I don't know how many military members are actually paying attention. I'm not uncertain, Phil. You might have an idea. I'm paying attention to this and care what they say.
That doesn't matter, though. And this is kind of the big challenge. When it comes to elections, when we say normies don't care about Israel, because we're talking about winning elections.
Yeah.
When we're talking about people murdering each other in the streets at the highest level, all that matters is a tiny fraction of the political elites are ready to kill each other. So every war ever has always been the tiniest percentage of people. That's where you get the phrase the 3%ers from. They say it was 3% of people who fought in the American Revolutionary War, something like that. So as for the sentiment in favor of revolution, you have estimates ranging of upwards of like 40% of the colonies supported it. Then the next biggest faction opposed it. Actually, no, I take that back. I think the plurality was like, we don't know and we don't care. And then you had like 40% and 20% or something like this. And with all wars, it is always a small faction of political elites. I mean, the Matt Taibbi article from several years ago is two vehicles are speeding they're at full speed heading to the police department. They slam the brakes on. Two men jump out, run up to the chief of police and go, arrest that man, at each other. It is always just a small handful of people. In fact, take a look at the history of like a military coup where 15 guys go in a building and the whole government is now under control of somebody else.
Yep.
I want to play this clip for you so you guys know the context here. This is what Democrats said.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
Goodlander.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
Who take risks each day.
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
Against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
But from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army.
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
So the point is, over the past several months with these ICE raids, you have Democrats arguing that Trump's orders of the National Guard have been illegal. The purpose of this, you must watch it in the context of the entire year. If you found a guy who lived in the hyperbaric time chamber with Goku and Vegeta, and he came out and had no idea what was going on. Actually, I take that back because time was slower in there. If Rip Van Winkle woke up today and you showed him this video, he'd go, I don't understand. You don't follow illegal orders. You then show him what Democrats have been saying. Here's an example. This is an example of a future sentiment. We already know they've claimed that the deployment of military was illegal. So they're basically saying, in the event Trump tells you you're being deployed from Chicago from Texas to Illinois, say no. Marianne Williamson tweets this. To be fair, she's not an elected politician, but she said, the reason Trump is warning Democratic congresspeople not to interfere with illegal military orders is because he's gearing up for war in Venezuela. He feels his grip is slipping and is responding by trying to tighten it. The context here is she is saying, and I'll stress this, I am not a fan of intervention in Venezuela, but certainly as it comes to foreign wars, there are ways it's handled. And if Congress approves it and authorizes it, Trump can do it. I'm sure there are going to be some circuitous methods by which Trump has the authority to bomb like he is in the Gulf. What she's saying is, if Trump orders action in Venezuela, it's illegal and should be defied. That's the point. Now, as to whether or not it actually would be illegal or whatever, it's beyond just a single individual in the military to make that decision. It's going to be a court-adjudicated process. Yep. But this is the game Democrats are playing. They label what Trump does always as illegal. Then they make another video saying, you don't have to follow illegal orders. We get it. It's sedition.
But being what I'm saying also before, military members might not be paying attention. If they're speaking to the military community, I'm not, like, say, the modern world, today's politics is culture, but I grew up in a time, I served in a time where there wasn't. So nowadays, maybe they're paying attention, but they have bigger things on their plate than to worry about what some people on the internet are saying.
I think it's worth noting, too, like the idea that Congress is going to declare war, or the idea that Congress is in charge of what military actions the United States takes, like that, the precedent has already been set that the president is the guy that can do it.
This is the point, okay? From CBS News back in October, 2 Illinois National Guard members speak out, quote, I won't turn against my neighbors. Quote, it's disheartening to be forced to go against your community members and your neighbors. It feels illegal. This is not what we signed up to do. I signed up to defend the American people and protect the Constitution, Blaha said. When we have somebody in power who's actively dismantling our rights, free speech, due process, freedom of the press, it's really hard to be a soldier right now. Understand, everyone, Democrats are fomenting a faction in our military to defy Donald Trump and, quote, pick an effing side. So when you already have National Guard going to the press and saying it, quote, it feels illegal, this is what Democrats are saying. They're trying to get this message to more and more members of the military to create a faction that will be loyal to them and disloyal to the president. Welcome to the civil strife period. This is how you get factions. This is how you end up with 2 different militaries shooting at each other.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like the National Guard being activated or having the president make a decree or send the National Guard somewhere, it's going to be tough to get him to say, hey, I'm going to use force against my neighbors, which is why you had Texas going to Chicago to support the law enforcement there. If you have the president do that kind of stuff, then you're more likely to have the National Guard, following their orders as opposed to following the governor's orders.
Keep in mind that they're claiming, this is why this is a headline, right? But the biggest thing you should think about is two National Guard members speak out. And at the very end, it says, he's dismantling free speech, democracy, it's the end of the world. Kind of saying the same thing you always hear anybody that's kind of wilding out what they're going to say. But what is failed to be said is there's 13,000 National Guard members in Illinois, not 2. It shouldn't even be an article, right? Shouldn't even be a headline.
I disagree.
You don't think so?
I think those 2 are the summation of the people who surround them. The saying goes that you are the summation of the 5 people who surround you. These people are certainly part of other groups that they surround and are surrounded by. I would argue that there's probably many Democrat-leaning members of the National Guard. The thing that people should understand is we're not talking about Army or Marines or anything like that. We're talking about National Guard. They live in these neighborhoods. Trump's had to bring people from Texas into Chicago, and these people are saying, I won't do it. And this is exactly as I've described over and over again. When people keep saying like, oh, this will never happen, it won't happen. When it comes to receiving orders from the president, historically, famously, the Confederate general said, my nation or my home, I choose my home. And when you get this Blaha guy, isn't he a politician?
I have no idea. I've never heard his name before.
You've got Staff Sergeant Demi Palachek. She's a state legislative candidate from Illinois' 13th district, and you have Captain Dylan Blaha running for Congress in the same district. This is so certainly that sentiment in Illinois' 13th is aligned with their views, and there are going to be many people in National Guard who live in Chicago who are going to be liberals. Yeah, and they do weekend training or whatever. They rarely get deployed like this. If Donald Trump, you know what this leads us to. I was saying this a few weeks ago, that historically, the precedent right now, it would not be unprecedented if Donald Trump suspended habeas corpus in key areas where they were engaging in the protective principle and the deployment of military and National Guard. Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus for the purpose of transporting military from Philly down to D.C. and other areas. They didn't want any sabotage on supply lines. If you've got 2 Illinois National Guards saying they're going to defy orders, and you've got Democrats telling them they should defy orders, it would not be unprecedented. I'm not saying it would be good, but if Trump came out and said, we're going to suspend habeas corpus in the transport lines for National Guard, and we will not tolerate insubordination in any capacity, sedition, treason, or otherwise. We have right now this as a threat with Trump saying it's seditious behavior. I would not be surprised if Trump or if Stephen Miller came on TV and said, we talked about suspending habeas corpus, we're doing it now. And it's because Democrats are trying to create factions in the military to defy the chain of command.
And that kind of like feeds into what you've been talking about recently of there are certain states who will fight each other like blue, red. They're setting their bases up and borderlines. Like
hyperpolarizing.
Yeah.
The fact that in Oregon, they're arresting conservatives, or that they're filing injunctions or seeking injunctions to block Trump deploying National Guard and saying he has no authority to do so when he certainly does. And now we're learning that they've continually suppressed what's called the protective principle and called it illegal, which has been precedent for decades. Trump can deploy the military, but not for domestic law enforcement. So he can send troops to a federal building to stand around. The idea is if they are attacked, they can protect the building. But they're not enforcing domestic law. They're not arresting people or giving out tickets or anything like that. The scariest thing about this is the principal issue the principal circumstance was marijuana farms with child slaves. Yeah. And the National Guard went in and helped break these things up as DHS and federal agents made arrests and rescued these kids. Democrats were apoplectic that their child slave drug farms were shut down.
Crazy.
That's what I kid you not. The average person not paying attention, we want them to, but this is why elections matter, and it's why messaging, it needs to be economics. I would much rather Trump wins, the Republicans win the midterms, and then Democrats just eventually shut up and go away and stop doing this evil garbage. But the reason why it's so important is because we discovered there were pot farms in California with child slaves, and Democrats defended the practice and tried to stop Donald Trump from shutting these things down. That's how terrifying it is where we are. So I imagine in 50 to 100 years, depending on what happens with the second Civil War, if there is one, they'll write about, well, the child slave farms growing drugs in California were a principal issue of contention among Republicans, as well as abortion up to 9 months, among other issues.
That all depends on who wins.
Indeed.
Yeah. They get to write the history books. If I had $100, I would put it on the Nothing Ever Happens Bros. They tend to be right most of the time. I look at stories like this, and honestly, I'm not that offended or bothered, or certainly not surprised by the Democrats. The liberals are going to lib. But honestly, the Trump administration has been, from my perspective, quite disappointing. I'm tired of the DHS, memeing Lord of the Rings. Pippin, there won't be a Shire. Like, I want to see arrests.
Pippin, there won't be a Shire.
I mean, I remember being excited, but at a certain point, it's like the joke's on me, and you start to be embarrassed, and rightfully so. Like, I remember being excited and being like, oh,
arrests of who?
Snap! You've got Trump tweeting out Napoleon quotes. He who saves his country violates no law.
But who do you want arrested?
Who do I want arrested?
Yeah.
Well, first, we need ICE to actually deport people. And anyone who gets in the way should be arrested.
So the estimate right now in 10 months is, I think, 600,000 deportations. And
how many?
600,000. And 1.4 million I think, is it 1.
Right. It's like 3 million total.
Total.
That's a joke.
Out of the 11 and 20, if we keep up this pace, we won't have deported everyone that came in illegally under Joe Biden. But what is the saying? Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good?
Of course. You got to do something. But how many do you think came in under Biden? I'm under the impression that you had
11.
What was it?
11 to 20 is the estimate.
Yeah, but in terms of gotaways, that's for
no, that includes the
and
gotaways.
Illegal.
Yeah.
But then
the gotaways are included in that.
So 20 million total?
That's the high end, and the low end is 11.
Okay. 20 to 11.
Yeah. So my point is this: I don't disagree with you. I'm not trying to.
It seems like you've got about 50 million people. There was some.
I don't know about 50.
Remember who somebody said something recently. There was some stats that came out where it was like 50 million immigrants. Between everything, between H-1B visas, between work visas, between
of course
all this kind of stuff. So I understand that's different.
You're not going to get deportation of every foreign national on a visa. It's never going to happen. And there may be some denaturalization, which needs to happen because of the national security threats. But my view is, when you say nothing ever happens, there's an important thing to understand, right? With Raymond, you're mentioning that normies aren't paying attention, they don't care, and things like that. These things are both true, but in certain contexts. Normies, when we say, oh, they don't care about this, doesn't matter, we're talking about policy debates, Epstein files. We want the Epstein files released. It's not going to motivate voters. The cost of milk will.
Yes.
In terms of conflict and murder, all that matters is those who have their finger on the trigger are at this point. As for the nothing ever happens, I agree in terms of, are we actually going to see Comey get arrested, or the Clintons? You know, the threat the other day was Comer saying the Clintons face prison. Yeah, right. I agree with nothing ever happens. Yeah. That being said, in this regard, I can only say it's been happening nonstop. And every major conflict is frogs boiling in a pot.
Yes.
If you went 10 years into the past, you know, Donald Trump just came down the escalator. We're entering the primary season. And you said to a room full of people, right, 10 years from now, the Democrats will call in the military to defy President Trump in his second term, non-consecutive, by the way, defy orders from the president. And then he said, sedition, punishable by death. They'd say, please put this madman in the loony bin.
Right.
So many things have happened. In terms of escalation.
A lot of talking has happened.
Charlie Kirk's dead.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not just talking. There have been murders, assassinations.
But that's my point.
There's been something like 50 to 70 terror attacks targeting people on the right.
But that's my point. So
ICE.
Talking, my concern is with the right. Things happen. You're absolutely right. I'm concerned that things don't happen from the right. Things happen to the right from the left.
Okay.
So that's what I'm trying to say. So in terms of things happening, I'm with you 100%. Will the left actually commit political assassinations? Will the left kill people? Will they lie? Will they defraud? Yes, they take action. Right?
Yep.
They take action. Trump.
That's why the right is called reactionary.
Yeah, not
when
so
the
much.
revolutionary left in France said, we're changing everything, the right that wanted to maintain the monarchy said, no, hold on there, gosh darn a minute. They reacted only.
Yeah, correct. Franco, same kind of thing.
Yep.
Hitler, same kind of thing.
But maybe you get a Franco in this regard. Maybe Trump is a Franco or Caesar.
I think he's a precursor. I thought that. I
Aaron.
hoped that. No, seriously. So I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I hate to admit it, but I feel like I got to be honest. Like I was like, yeah, like Trump's going to come in, American Caesar. He's going to clean up, America. We're so back. I was posting like everybody else. The DHS. Are you kidding me? Like, you've got the DHS posting this or whatever, and Bible verses, from ICE, on Twitter, and really excited about it. But here we are. We're coming up on a year into a second term. It feels like we're going to get slaughtered in the midterms. We're going to have President Trump with his hands tied behind his back, a lame duck presidency. And then honestly, right now, the conditions feel like they're getting set to where we might get slaughtered again in 2028. So anyways, all that being said, I'm with you 100%. It feels like we had our wires crossed for a second. There is action. There are crazy historical things happening. It's not small. It needs to be taken seriously. But in terms of the action, the crazy stuff happening, it's from the left. The right is still just talking.
Right. If we track alongside the Spanish Civil War, then the prediction would be that Democrats win 26 and 28. And by 2030, the right engages in hardcore military action.
That's what I think. I think we haven't felt enough. So back to, you said the frogs boiling, in a pot of water.
Right.
We haven't felt enough pain.
The point of the Spanish Civil War was that the right had power, said we got to stop the communists. Everybody agreed, but then things didn't go that well. So the communists won power back, and then Franco, he's just like, okay, I guess, let's see how things go. And then started seeing what was going on. They were basically becoming a vassal of the Soviet Union. And he says, okay, we better go take this whole thing over. And then you got the right-wing military coup in Spain, which lasted until he died, and then it became a republic.
Right, and that's kind of what we felt in 2020. It's like I think people really were sick. You're normies, right? The people just want to grill in the backyard. They actually tuned into politics, at least a little bit. Yeah, and so they tuned in, and they're like, this is ridiculous. We got Drag Queen Story Hour. We've got pornography in elementary school libraries. We've got all these kind of things. And they're like, that's enough, and they went in there for the second time, arguably, I would say the third time, and gave the FU Donald Trump, vote in the ballot box. But here's the deal. in terms of keeping power, it's exactly what you just said, Tim. In terms of keeping power, you have a very small window of time when the right comes in to prove that it's an improvement, that it's actually better. And that has not been proven, right? And when people want proof, one of the big things is going to be their pocketbook. It's going to be economics. Like, can I afford to live? You're looking at it, it's like, all right, Trump's president. We're supposed to have this golden age of America. Houses are even more unaffordable. Groceries doesn't feel like it's gotten better. And so you have a short window. As soon as that's gone, then people, it's not like people turn all the way on a dime and they're like, yeah, bring back the drag queen story hours. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that people will just tune out. I think 2028, honestly, I think the numbers of just overall voting that we had in 2020, I think, or 2024 in terms of presidential election voting numbers, I think you're going to see smaller numbers. I think
I agree.
Just won't care.
Especially right now, where you've got a couple major scandals. You've got that Stacey Plaskett is a known puppet of Epstein. Yes. Business Insider wrote about this in 2023. We'll jump to that story in a bit. And now we learned that she was taking direction from Epstein in the hearing with Michael Cohen to build a false criminal case against Donald Trump. This is crazy. Epstein colluding with Democrats to take down Donald Trump. It's confirmed, and we've had the information going back from 23. Now we have her texting with Epstein.
And after all of Trump's friendship with Epstein, he's still
Sure. The point
How could Epstein do that? It's like he's a bad guy or something.
People are tuning out right now from politics. They largely don't care anymore. If you without naming anybody in particular, but you take a look at some of these conservative commentators on YouTube who have big multi-million followings, hey, their views are at like 20 to 30% of where they were 4 or 5 months ago.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't want to drag anybody. Yeah. And then there are some whose views are way up.
What
and that's interesting. About? That is pretty interesting. But I think regular people are largely tuned out. The top trending stories have all basically become sports, which is kind of a relief. Kind of, That being said, the politics still dictates life. And I was having a conversation with some professional athletes recently who are like, man, I don't follow news. I don't know or care. And I said, have you asked why rent is high or you can't afford a house or why your money's not going far? And they're like, well, I mean, that is an issue. And I'm like, see, that's what happens. You don't pay attention to politics. Right. You don't know why you can't afford to buy anything anymore. And then you get mad. And then because you're mad, you go to politics for an answer. And the Democrat comes and says, I will steal money from someone to give to you. Right. And they vote Democrat.
Oh, shoot.
Right.
Yep.
Honestly, I was just going to say, steal money from somebody. So I'm a Christian pastor. So my whole life, it's always been like socialism is theft, right? You can't take money from some guy and give it to somebody else. That's a violation of the 8th commandment. Thou shalt not steal. But I'll be honest, I don't really see a way out. Like, I feel like we're cooked. Like, when I think of the economy, when I think of the amount of debt, when I think of the amount of usury, right now, like, I think it's all the way. Some reports are saying back to all-time highs of like 2009. Some are saying 2003 in delinquencies. Cars getting repoed.
Oh, the LSATs,
highest.
Dude.
So when you're looking at all of this, you're looking at house prices, all these different things. I look at that, and then you look at like someone like Elon Musk, or Jeff Bezos, and I'm not just saying because they're rich, but you look at the whole AI narrative and all these kinds of things. It does seem, and I don't like this, I'm not saying, so this is not a prescription, it's a prediction. There's a difference between the two. But when I look at it, I'm like, I think that massive wealth is actually possible. And I think it could be actually coming quickly. The problem is, the average person is not going to actually be able to produce that kind of wealth. The only thing, like, it's like, wait a second, is that National Socialism? But like, the only thing that I can even think of for the average American to be able to, and you saw Elon Musk actually recently said this. He said high universal income.
Yeah.
High universal income. I don't like that. I don't want universal income. I would like for people to be attached to the land, actually produce things, work with their hands. Everybody be able to have a trade, be able to contribute. Those kinds of things. I don't want blue collar America to get addicted to meth because they just have free checks in the mail and they're not productive citizens. So all of it bothers me immensely. But when I look and I see like where we're heading because of technological innovation and then our politics and our culture and all these kinds of things, it's like they keep serving up AI slop. And, like Billy Madison's like, I made it extra sloppy for you. I know how you kids, you Americans love your sloppy joes. And we're like, please, sir, may I have another? I don't see the toothpaste going back in the tube.
I want to pull up this story from Newsweek. SNAP benefits update USDA to completely deconstruct the program. They are going to tear the whole SNAP program apart and make everyone reapply. Now, I'm not here to have a conversation, in fact, about SNAP and its deserving or otherwise. What we've seen is the abuse of EBT.
Massive abuse.
Morbidly obese people bragging how they get to buy a little treat, and you work hard every day and you don't get one. There's one video where a woman says she was able to buy commemorative Coca-Cola glasses on EBT because it came with a little bag of popcorn. But the reason why I bring this up is that you were just mentioning that there's conversation around universal income.
Yeah.
This is not possible. Universal basic income won't work because we've all seen the EBT videos. So the 80% of us that have to work and are struggling and don't get that little treat are going to be pretty dang unhappy with the people who do nothing and have everything taken care of for them. However, it got me thinking. They want to deconstruct this program and overhaul it. USAID, what if the real plan actually is universal basic income, but in order to make it work, you have to excise the corruption and the rot? Meaning, if you had, let's just call it a Christian nationalist society where everybody followed the tenets of Christianity.
I love it, Tim.
You could have
Let's go.
You could have a universal income.
Say Christ is Lord.
You could have you could have a universal income.
Right. Yeah.
If everybody shared their morality and agreed on how things were being distributed and everybody agreed hard work was important, then a universal income would work relatively fine.
Right.
The issue is the moral fiber of your people. And if you have too many
moral fiber and the fact that we're not homogenous. That's part of it. We don't have a high trust society because we invited the entire world to live here. We're too different.
And so I'm going to point this out. There's a few things I need to say so that people understand how it could work and why it wouldn't. I've made this point before. Communism absolutely works. Pause for dramatic and suspense. When you have like 10 people. 10 people living on a farm and everyone just kind of does what they need to do, and things kind of work. Like one dude's growing vegetables, and then he brings them in, so I grew vegetables, and they're all kind of happy with not having money and just giving to each other what they need when they need it.
Even on the farm, it doesn't work. They literally wrote a book about this, Tim. It's called Animal Farm.
That's not true at all. In fact, it literally does work.
All right.
There's actually some well-known communes that have limited the size. There's one that's very famous. They have only 100 people, and they won't allow any more because small-scale communism is super easy. There's a designated space, nobody has much, but they're all kind of happy just living on the farm.
Right.
Kind of how people used to live a long time ago. You don't need money when it's your bro who asks for one of your apples.
Right.
You know if the trade is, but when you have a larger scale system, you need money and people need to know that their work is being rewarded fairly.
See, I think
of
said, feudalism.
The point I'm trying to make is once we get into this data center mass future where there's giant black boxes everywhere and McDonald's is totally automated.
Right.
Now the question is, if you have an owner class and a consumer class, what work is being done?
Right.
So they've already got fully automated McDonald's. Somebody owns that, and it's going to generate maybe, I don't know what a McDonald's does, but let's just do this. I know car dealerships do about $1 million a month in total revenue. You automate the car washing process and the selling process with no more staff, and you have a guy who owns the building, and they generate $1 million with zero staff, massive profit. How do we then actually have customers? The system that's proposed by Elon and many others would be universal basic income. But this only works when you get rid of scarcity and get to that level. And it's not going to work if you have fat, lazy people who don't contribute anything.
Right.
So there still has to be some degree of contribution and a requirement as to why you need the vehicle. If you have a large portion of your society that wants money but will then do nothing, it won't work. Right. If you have a large group of people, actually, let me put it like this. Went to an investor meeting. And I've told this story before for those that have heard it. They asked the guy, if tomorrow you woke up, let me ask you this here, Pastor. If tomorrow you woke up and you checked your bank account and there was $1 million cash, and there was a notification saying you won a special banking prize, taxes have already been accounted for, here's $1 million cash, what would you do with the money?
I would give 10% to the church. And then I would invest probably 80% or so. And then
where would you invest it?
Where would I invest it?
Yeah, do you have anything in mind?
Well, part of it I would invest in certain businesses that I'm personally involved in. With other
one of the best answers you could possibly give. Yeah. The point of the question is, the investors ask this because the average person goes, pay off my student loan debt, I guess, buy a house. Oh man, take a vacation. And they go, totally. Nice meeting you. Goodbye. What they want to hear is, I would invest it. Actually, the first thing you said was the perfect answer. Give 10% to the church. Because what you're basically saying is, there is something that's very important to me that needs funding to continue to exist. Right. I want to build it up. And we all understand what church services are. Right. You're basically saying, let me use that money for a mission that I have.
Yes.
If everyone in society had that mission, universal income could work.
But they don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, so no, you're 100% right. But so the reason I mentioned feudalism earlier is just like, I feel like that's where we're heading, honestly, is like this feudal serf kind of system. So you think of, back in the day, it's like, okay, people are dying of disease. The average lifespan is like, 45, 50 years old. So there were some rough times. You have conditions and weather and elements and all these different things. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, there's no improvements that we have today. Of course we do, through modern technology and advancements, and medicine and all these different things. But when you look back in the day, it's like the people, what they provided was they worked the land. And a lot of, you can look at some of these societies, they would have like 6 months off in a year, right? It was seasonal work. And then it's just like 6 months vacation. Now they're not going to Tahiti or something like that. They're living on their land. They just don't have to work. But when it's time to work, they work. And then the Lord, he owns everything, right? The serf doesn't actually own anything. He owns everything. And his contribution is kind of this unspoken agreement, is loyalty to the people who live on his land, the serfs. And he represents them with the king. It's a monarchical system. And the lords may have some feuds every now and then. And if the king's really bad, then, all the people, they're frustrated. They go talk to the lords. The lords represent them, and they form a coup and kick out the king and appoint somebody else. I feel like, again, this is a prediction, not a prescription, but that feels inevitable. I feel like we're going to have House Musk, House Bezos, House Zuckerberg, House, and like, because the difference, what you're describing, Tim, here's the question. What do you do when a sizable portion of your population, it's not just morality, it's not just will, it's not just that they're lazy or immoral or whatever. What do you do when a sizable portion of your country is retarded, right? Like democracy, but the problem is that the people are retarded. So democracy is for the retarded, of the retarded. Like I feel like that's where we're at as Americans. When I look at the population at large, I think, dude, the way we're heading with our economic system and production, the types of things we're producing, the average person is, and this is kind of gets to Trump, and I'm offended by it. I don't like it. I piled on against Trump with everybody else on social media this past week with his rhetoric where he was saying, well, Americans aren't talented. Now, he didn't exactly say that, I understand, but I'm paraphrasing, being a little facetious, but the reporter or whoever it was interviewing him was like, well, we have talent here. And he's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And he needed to be more specific and say, look, because what people are concerned about is entry-level jobs being taken up, because that's 80% of the H-1Bs. When you actually break it down, it's a bunch of Indians coming and taking basic work that Americans actually could do. If Trump means, oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, Asians with 150 IQ and a small group of them coming in for 2 years temporarily to teach people how to make semiconductors and then eventually go back home. Well, then say that, please, Mr. President. Say that and give us a little bit of peace of mind and that you're for us. But my point is that Trump is correct. I hate to admit it, but he is correct in a sense that the average American and where our economic system is heading and what we produce, what we actually produce, the average American, it's getting to the point where we're not going to make anything that the average blue-collar person is actually able to contribute to.
We're already a service-based society, though, aren't we?
What?
Aren't we largely a service-based society?
Yeah, fixing things, yeah. But a lot of that, I feel like we've shipped overseas. A lot of that we've exported, we've gotten rid of, and then the few things we've kept, we've imported people to fill those jobs. But my point is, like, what do you do when, let's just say, hypothetically, let's say robots really, Democrats, the age-old question is, who's going to pick the cotton, right? So it's like the slaves. Well, now it's the immigrants, Well, what about eventually when it's the robots, and what if...
And that's not that far off.
Right. So what if you answer the time-old question of who's going to pick the cotton, who's going to pick the produce, who's going to do these kinds of average jobs, and then you have a lot of American citizens, and I'm not talking about paperwork Americans, I mean actual Americans who love God, country, and family, kin, and they're salt of the earth. They're not lazy, they're not hooked on meth, but they're just, God bless them, they're 85, 90 IQ. and they actually don't have a whole lot to contribute. And you've got billionaire here, billionaire here, billionaire here, and it becomes kind of like this feudal serf kind of thing. Like what do you, because I'm a conservative, or I at this point I feel like conservatives haven't conserved anything except for the left's past victories, so I don't even like using the term anymore. But if you'd asked me just a few years ago, I would have said socialism is inherently evil. It's the pre-stench of communism. It's theft. It's a breach of the 8th commandment. And I still feel that. I have this gut feeling with that. But what do you do when you actually have people who are not being lazy? The Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. But what the Bible's talking about is if a person is willfully choosing, their volition, they're not willing to work. It's a moral claim. It's not saying that a quadriplegic who got hit by a truck deserves to starve, right? The Bible talks about compassion and mercy. So what do you do, though, if we get to a point where it's not just one fraction of our society? What do you get? What happens if half of your country is goodwill, but actually can't contribute in any meaningful way? Then what do? You just half the country starves? Or all of a sudden are conservatives going to have to spin on a dime, change our rhetoric, and start making arguments for why socialism is inherently good? And then if it is socialism, back to what Tim is saying, he was talking about communism, but he's saying, look, it needs to be an in-group, 10 people.
One of the most important tenets of socialism is always the abolition of property. Right. So if you're talking about the government having a universal basic income, right, something that pays for people, gives money to people so they can buy stuff. Right. That doesn't in any way mean that you're not seizing property. It doesn't take property from people. And I think that the fact that socialism takes property away and doesn't allow people to have property is one of the real driving negatives about it. I understand all of the lack of meaning that people have if they don't have a job, or they don't have something that they do that they love. I understand that there's a lot of young guys that are just sitting around playing video games, smoking dope. I get that, and those are strong arguments. But to call it socialism, right, and or at least to conceive of it as socialism in the way that you and I both have that negative connotation. I think the fact that there's no property rights is really the real demon part of socialism.
You're right. Yeah, that's a dynamic difference. Absolutely. But even this, I don't like this. I'm not saying I like this. But even when you think of property, like I remember, a friend made this argument to me. He's a Marxist, and I profoundly disagree with him. God bless him. But, we were talking back and forth, and he said, well, Joel, what do you do when it's not just innovation or hard work or ingenuity or these kinds of things? It's just being untimely born. Like, what do you do if somebody, his great-great-grandfather, happened to get to such and such a place, and he purchased land there on a river? But he's upstream. He's on like the fountainhead, right? The beginning of this river. Everybody else came in, 20 years later, 30 years later, 50 years later, bought land downstream of the river, and it's his private property, and he decides that he's going to dam it up. And the value of those properties down the river, a huge portion of the value of those properties were that they had a river, and now they don't have a river, but it's his private property.
I used to consider myself a strongly libertarian person, and there's a lot of libertarian arguments that I still look very fondly of, and that's still a property rights claim, right? If you purchase property on a river, that means the river bank is yours, right? And the person damming the river upstream, is affecting your property. This is the same argument that's made about, what if someone is using, or someone builds a factory upstream and they're polluting the river? Well, that's a property rights claim as well.
So who comes in and fixes it, though?
Well, that's what the state's for.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why we can't ever be true libertarian.
100%. Yeah, I'm not an anarchist at all. And that's why I don't, part of the reason, there's a lot of holes in libertarian arguments and stuff, and that's why I don't call myself, one of the reasons I don't call myself. Pardon me?
Like roads.
I am one that wants to just get rid of roads totally.
Shouldn't be in them. All grass.
Get rid of them. I hate
Everyone's
roads.
off-road.
But
two words that scare libertarians the most: road.
But anyways, my point is, I just think that's. It seems like an inevitability that we're going to come to a place where all of a sudden we're going to have a lot of people to take care of. We're already there. We have millions of people to take care of. Some of them we've imported. Some of them are choosing to be lazy, whatever. There's different reasons. But I'm talking about a fundamentally different problem. What do you do? We've always had, the degenerate of society. What do you do, though, when society itself, who are not necessarily degenerate, who actually have work ethic, they want to contribute, but they don't really have anything to do, like what Elon Musk is talking about? I think that it's concerning. He talks about it as though it's a golden age and it's just this net positive. I think that it's going to create a lot of problems when all of a sudden you have universal income because you have to, because you have good-willed people who would work but can't. And I feel like at that point there's going to be problems, but there'll be bigger problems if we move into that level of society and we're also still globalist.
The issue of can't, though, is the data centers and the AI takeover and the automation.
Yes.
Work is going to be... It's going to be very much creative oriented, and whether or not your work is valuable is not something you can just easily decide.
Right.
And considering AI is largely doing creative stuff, we really have no idea what work will look like. However, in the meantime, we are in this transition period. We are not post-scarcity. There will always be a certain degree of scarcity. We can automate quite a great deal, but this society in the United States is always going to require slave labor in mines in foreign countries. So the idea would be, in the U.S., we become, I don't know, what's the right word? Creatives, where we get, it's basically what we have now. We as the United States get extra money for doing very little work, so everybody wants to be here. If you worked the same amount of hours in the United States doing actually, let me put it like this. The secret to wealth, my friends, it's proximity to wealth. That's it. That's why there are so many people who take out huge loans and then go and rent a mansion in Beverly Hills, because proximity to wealth generates wealth. There was a show called The Real Hustle a long time ago. I think it was a BBC show. And it was these three con artists talking about how they con people. And one of the things they did was they bought Jergens or something, lotion, and they put it in little vials and then put a fancy name on it and sold it at 10 times the markup, and it works. You look at Beverly Hills. You look at people willing to buy fancy things for the sake of being fancy. There was a mobile app released on Android that was like $10,000 to download, and all it showed was a picture of a red gem.
Really?
And rich people were like, I'm going to buy it because I want to show people that I have it because I'm rich. And then the developer did literally no work. That's the key. In the United States, you work at McDonald's, you're not rich. You make not very good money in American standards, but Indonesian standards, that's why everybody wants to come here. So the future is going to look very much similar. What can we do in terms of work? Honestly, I have no idea. Bomb other countries, have the petrodollar. I suppose we'll see. I do need to bring this up, though, because you're talking about society and degeneracy, though. We have this from CNN. Federal terrorism charge filed against a man who allegedly set a woman on fire on the Chicago train. We talked about this story the other day, and Elad made a nasty joke about it. So this was a 26-year-old woman sitting in a chair when this man walked up to her and poured gasoline on her. She fought him, fled to the front of the train. He lit the bottle on fire, walked up, and used it to ignite her. Oof. This is what we're dealing with right now in this country, and this is Chicago. They say Lawrence Reed was sitting in the back of a car on the Blue Line train on Monday when he approached a woman as she sat with her back to him, according to the ATF. Reed removed the cap from a plastic bottle, then doused the woman with what was believed to be gasoline. The 26-year-old woman then ran to the back of the train car. Reed ignited the bottle, approached the woman, and set her on fire. Surveillance video showed Reed at a gas station about 30 minutes before the attack, filling a small container with gasoline. The federal charge against Reed of Chicago carries a maximum penalty of life in prison. Reed shouted, "I plead guilty," repeatedly as the judge tried to advise him of his rights. After the attack, the train the woman was on pulled into a stop downtown. Reed walked away, and the woman stumbled out and fell to the ground. She was taken to a hospital in critical condition with severe burns on her head and body. Officials have not released her name. Chicago police said that when they arrested him Tuesday morning, he made incriminating statements about the attack. He was wearing the same clothes as the man who attacked the woman on the train, according to the affidavit. Reed carried out the attack with the intent to cause death and serious bodily injury to one or more persons, the ATF investigator wrote. How does this happen?
It would be terrifying to ever get on a train in any of these places. I see a story every other day of somebody getting stabbed, thrown around, caught on fire, assaulted, on a train, and it just, I'm confused as to why this is such a common thing and why this is happening. Is it a breakdown of mental health? Is it because we don't support mental health? Is it because we let people out of prison or jail way too early?
It's because Chicago doesn't let you have guns.
That's a big one, yeah.
Because I'm gonna be honest. I don't want anybody dying. But look, this guy doused her with gasoline and she fled, and that was smart to do because it's very quick to light someone on fire. After she got away from him and he walked towards her with fire. Were she in a state that allowed self-defense, she would have shot him and killed him, and she would have been fine. Instead, she's in critical condition with severe burns and may die.
Yeah, and home invasions are like this in places like this, or places like in Canada, where somebody can break into your home and have a weapon, and you're not allowed to even fire at them unless they fire and maybe hit you or something. Yep. And you're supposed to, what they tell you to do is either flee, hide, or just do whatever they say. And they're like, your stuff isn't more valuable than their life. And I'm like, well, as soon as they pass my threshold in Alabama, they've determined their worth is not worth living because the 12 gauge is going to have its day. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference, is when you live in a place like Alabama and or Florida and somebody crosses your threshold, that's the act of violence already.
In Illinois, these blue states are just soft on crime in general. Like, people think they can get away with anything they want. So they go in and do what they want.
Well, that's the thing. They can, right? If the DAs don't prosecute and if the judge doesn't actually put people in jail or they get bail and they walk and they're out on the street the same day, for all intents and purposes, they can. And so there's no deterrent. Yes. And also a lot of young people that are like repeat offenders and stuff like that, they think they're going to end up in jail at some point. So it's not about, if I'm going to go to jail. It's just when I'm going to go to jail and how long I'm going to be in jail. And then when I get out, that gives you get street cred for that kind of stuff, especially like gang members and stuff like that. So the idea that there's a deterrent, it isn't. The real deterrent is, a threat of being met with force.
And there are people that defend it. There's even politicians that defend it. And they think that you're supposed to basically sacrifice your life to prove how morally good you are to other people.
Thank you.
And I'm like, you know what? You can just call me a bad person and I will agree right before I fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the only people I care about in my life are the people that I love and the people that are around me that I take care of. That is my responsibility and my accountability. Yeah. Some random person coming into my house, I don't have to prove to them or other people that I care about them because honestly, I just don't.
Yeah. Look, I have a new baby at home and I'm going to protect my family.
The victim
That's all there is to it.
This dude's going to be a box of spaghetti. You're not getting over the damn threshold.
And it's like, this gentleman's older, I believe, but a lot of YNs, they go into the life they're in, like they're accepting, like you said, jail, accepting death. They're accepting the consequences of their actions, and they expect it. Get by with what they can.
There are a lot of stills from the surveillance footage, but I can't find the surveillance footage of the attack, which is interesting.
Joel, they need Christ.
What?
They need Christ.
Yeah, they absolutely need Christ. But in addition to needing Christ,
they need a Glock.
They need a Glock.
We got a Glock video for the uncensored.
We got to have a
country.
country.
Show. You saw that video I posted?
Yeah. I saw it already.
Basically, Glock.
48 hours.
They discontinued their old models, created new ones because people were putting switches on them, and then he was like 48 hours later, a very low IQ individual figured out how to.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw.
Gun control is dead. It does not work. And now that you can 3D print metal, you can have like powder that the laser will turn into metal, and you can buy one of those for a few $1,000s. 3D printing has made gun control obsolete. So
I remember when was it 2020? You guys had Timmy had a 3D printer guy on, a young guy, and I bought that 3D printer, but they're like, it was plastic then, and now it's so much more advanced. Back in now 2025, you can do whatever you want.
So, but yeah, look, you should be able to defend yourself. There have been multiple Supreme Court decisions saying that you are entitled to own, possess, and carry a firearm, and still places like Chicago and New York City are preventing people from carrying a firearm for their own self-defense.
And there's a lot of propaganda out there that are encouraging people to not defend themselves. I was talking to a friend that was thinking about coming to visit the U.S. recently, and they told me that the only thing they're afraid of is they're afraid of offending somebody and getting shot. And I'm like, you have a handful of cities to avoid anywhere in rural America. It doesn't work that way.
Nope.
People aren't getting shot. 98% of the crimes happening in these tight-knit areas.
Yeah.
A couple cities cities. If you go anywhere else, man, you can walk around at 3 a.m. down Jefferson Avenue. You're all good.
If you take the United States and you remove like a handful of cities, I think four or five cities, then the violent crime with a gun rate goes down to, comparable to Europe.
If you took every person who committed their third crime, arrestable offense, and put them on an island somewhere, crime would be gone in the country.
Yep.
There are these charts that people have put out that almost all crime is perpetrated by individuals who have been arrested at least 3 times.
Yeah, and you can empower the police in these places, or you can empower the police to arrest these people. And if you had a justice system that actually put people in jail, you can clean up these cities fairly easily, because the local police generally know who the garbage cans are.
Yeah.
They know who the guys that commit crimes are, because like Tim said, they've been arrested over and over and over and over.
It's like the rule people say, it's the 10%. The rules are for everyone.
Yeah, but I think part of the problem is because America, if we're deeply afraid of anything, it's being called racist.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's different ways of breaking down the statistics. Like, hey, it's a third arrest. Like what Tim said, he's right. But there's also another way of breaking down those metrics, and it's not proportional.
No, but the ironic part of that is the people that are suffering because of the crime are people that are of the same race as the people that are committing crime.
That's true.
Because if you're in a community that has crime, the people in that community are the ones that are suffering the crime.
Yep.
So so to say
I agree. It's loving to everyone. It is loving to black people to make black criminals actually go to jail.
Yeah.
So I know what you're saying. You're absolutely right. I'm just saying that I do think that that's one of the inhibiting factors, is that we're like, well, but if we actually, act out, the laws of justice, and we do it, Lady Justice is supposed to be blind for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. If we do it without showing favoritism, without bias, it's swift justice, it's proportional, it's, all these things. You're going to have certain populations that are more incarcerated than others. And at a certain level, I think you have to just do we want a country? Or do we want to be able to pat ourselves on the back and feel really good about, I don't know, whatever.
Allowing people to get killed.
I would like to have a country, whatever it takes.
Yes, sir.
We're going to have politicians fighting it forever, saying that, the reason this percentage is higher is because profiling or things like that. So.
And to your point, Joel, a lot of the people that get arrested, they don't get put in jail or whatever. It's because the justice system practices things like restorative justice.
Right.
Well, this group of people, this person with this identity, they have historically been treated badly.
Right.
So we can't actually treat them as anyone else under the law.
Punitive justice is what we need.
Indeed. I want to jump to this story from CNN. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you of one thing. Please share this with all of your liberal family members and just play the video for them. Just play and ask them. Now, I got to be honest, they're probably going to give you a non-committal non-answer. This is Rep. Jasmine Crockett being caught lying and then continuing to lie. Crockett claimed Trump official received money from Jeffrey Epstein. It was a different Epstein. It's so much worse than that. What Jasmine Crockett did, listen to this. Okay, apparently don't listen to it because it's muted. There we go.
Republicans taking money from a Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what you said.
Pause.
Who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio.
You mentioned Lee Zeldin there. He's now a cabinet secretary. He responded and said it was actually Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who's a doctor that doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his. Do you want to correct the record on the people that you
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. Just so that people understand, when you make a donation, your picture is not there.
Evil.
And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
In fact, what she said was someone named Jeffrey Epstein, implying Republicans took money from Epstein, when in fact we know Democrats were caught recently having colluded with Epstein on the charges in New York against Donald Trump. Specifically that Epstein texted a politician he bought and paid for. All of this confirmed, and she followed his instructions to question Michael Cohen on what he told her to ask, and they used that to falsely convict Trump under made-up charges.
This is exactly why
Because it was not the...
This is why Jasmine Crockett should get censured. Would be a good
censure. She should be expelled.
Well, I don't.
You know what? Nothing ever happens because Republicans won't expel people that are doing stuff like this.
Well, that was my point. It's the Republicans taking action.
Had something to say. All he had to say was it was a Jeffrey Epstein.
And he did.
He admitted that he did receive donations from a Jeffrey Epstein, so at least I wasn't trying to miss...
From a Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, have I dug in to find out who this doctor is? I have not. So I will trust and take what he says, is that it wasn't that Jeffrey Epstein, but I was not attempting to mislead anybody.
That's
I
just a
literally
straight lie.
had maybe 20 minutes before I had to do that debate.
Yeah, but people might see that and say, well, you're trying to make it sound like he took money from...
I did not know.
A registered sex offender.
No, but I literally did not know. When you search FEC files, and that's what I had my team to do, I texted them and I said, listen, we're going up. They are saying that she took donations.
Right, but someone might say, well, your team should have done the homework to make sure it wasn't the convicted sex trafficker.
Within 20
And she can't be sued for defamation under the speech and debate clause?
minutes. You could not find that out, not from just doing a quick...
These people are evil. How about this from Business Insider? Maximum amounts allowed, how Jeffrey Epstein's political donations won him and his pedophile island a powerful ally. This was written 2023. Jeffrey Epstein was paying her because she needed to raise $250,000 for the DCCC, and he was going to cut her a check for $30,000. She is in his pocket. So in 2019, when the story had already dropped from the Miami Herald that this stuff was ongoing with Epstein, 2018, the story drops. 2019, he's texting her, telling her what to ask Michael Cohen, because she's bought and paid for by Epstein. And that's why Jasmine Crockett went into this debate and said, here's someone else who took money from a person named Jeffrey Epstein. It was a manipulation.
The intent was to deceive.
Indeed, because they're evil and they're in the bag for Epstein and have been the whole time.
And she said she did not know. She's like, well, I didn't know. And I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't have said it. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing.
No, she did know. That's why she phrased it like she did. That's
Exactly.
why she said from someone named Jeffrey Epstein. She knew.
She wanted the intent to hit.
Yeah.
It was just an attack. And it's just like, it's exactly like when Ed Gein apparently in that show had this girlfriend that he was dating for years. And after he was shortly arrested in the 50s or whatever, she came out and claimed that she had a big connection to him. And then when she started getting heat from it, she was like, oh, no, I actually didn't know him at all. Right. So it was just a quick attack to try to get some intent in there and some attention to it that she should be sued for.
Yeah.
She should be able to be sued.
Did you guys see the clip from Steve Bannon recently where he said, if we don't do something, if Republicans don't take action, we're going to get slaughtered in the midterms. And when that happens, some of the people in this room, including myself, are going to go to jail. I thought that was prescient. That was very well said and very true and not hyperbole. My point is that Republicans are not taking action. They're acting as though the Republicans are fulfilling all the prophecies of the nothing ever happens bros.
They're writing strongly worded letters.
Yeah, but something actually will happen because there is a political party in this country that does take action, that will do everything they can do, at legal or illegal. And right now, the only thing that's holding them back is that we have a majority, but that's quickly, it looks like it's quickly going to fade. And I don't understand, what does it take? I thought that 2020, people being locked in their homes, forced vaccinations, I thought that would be enough. George Floyd, I thought that would be enough for
Life's too
Republicans
comfortable.
to play for
People
keeps.
forgot.
But it's like everybody has their sports ball, everybody still has their Netflix, everybody still has now they have their Chat GPT and AI. And to me, that's the concerning thing is that I feel like things are getting worse and worse. But in terms of being placated, the masses by entertainment, all this stuff, that's getting higher and higher and higher to where the masses won't care, and the few that try to make a difference are literally going to be round up and shot or thrown in jail.
Yeah, and your point about COVID is try to have a conversation with somebody about COVID, especially somebody that lived in LA or something now. And it's almost like it was a different reality for them, and they don't even acknowledge its existence.
Yep.
That you weren't allowed to say certain things. You weren't allowed to go to certain places. You can't even go to Walmart. Your gym was closed. A lot longer for a lot of people. It was only 3 weeks for me in Alabama, but for a lot of people, it was a very, very long time.
Right.
And life, like Phil said, is so comfortable. You got your sports ball and your Netflix and your ice cream and your boobies. Like, you got all the things you need. You quickly forget how much overreach the government can have. Especially locally, and it's like in places like LA, you completely forget what they can do. Your rights can go away as soon as they determine that they are for the greater good, right?
Well, the GOP are a bunch of pussy willows, like the plant, because it's like in 2022, they went against their bunch establishment shills. They went against Robbie Starbuck. He tried to run in Tennessee, and the GOP establishment wouldn't let him. They shot him down. So they are all the same people. They're all discussing. They're all in it for themselves. They're going to stand on their hands. They do nothing for the country. They do make no laws. They don't help anyone except for themselves, for the power. And then hopefully they burn down to the ground too. I don't care.
Yeah,
let them all go.
They're all part and parcel. They're in the same club. They're in the same same group of people. Yeah, it's like the same vehicle that gets them money every year when they get money through Congress funding, etc. From people that are what's the word, lobbyists.
Yes.
If they get rid of that, then they all lose. They all lose their ability to get these extra cars and these extra houses and stuff like that they really want. So they can't go after. They never will go after. That's the biggest issue, I think. I mean, I know it's not as big an issue as it may seem like on paper, but how are these people earning so much money off of the salaries they're supposed to be earning is, it immediately tells you there's something going on. We all know about it. It's an open secret.
Robbie was a leader of like the MAGA and, America First movement, and they just shut him down.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
They didn't gaslight us about it.
Yeah.
Say it never happened.
You guys think that, I'm curious to hear your take. Do you think that a third party is even viable? No. I don't think so.
No. It'd be nice, but...
What's the platform?
America First. I feel like that's the only thing that would maybe stand a chance.
That's what's supposed to be. That's what MAGA's supposed to be.
No, it's not.
Well, that's
what it's supposed to be. You're right.
The narrative. They're supposed to be America First. But I mean, when you say America First, what is that going to mean?
It should mean Americans first. And American then has to be defined, and it can't be just anybody who showed up 15 minutes ago.
It's not just Americans, though, but first. And it also is about the development that we do should be in America. We shouldn't be sending money overseas to build countries in Afghanistan or anything like that. We should be fixing our own roads, our own bridges, and building up our culture, communities, etc. We should be creating manufacturing jobs here and not China or Mexico.
But, I mean, like as a concept, I like that. But... do we want the federal government doing that, dictating that stuff? Because then you're only going to end up with more special interests being involved at the federal level.
The only real issue is a lack of a homogenous American culture, or more so that we are at a point where liberals have out-group preference, and the leaders of this country over the past 100 years basically gave it away. And you know what I call it? I call it the jet fuel can't melt steel beams of history. You don't need to remove all Americans to destroy America. You need only remove a small portion to weaken the foundation of the country before it begins to crumble. The giant mass of America can exist, but you need strong foundations. And when you bring in people from the third world, or you just mass import people who don't share your values, the foundation cracks, the beams weaken, and the whole thing comes crashing down.
Yep.
Yeah. I was just going to say, bringing third world folks into a first world world is not going to. It's not going to work.
You can't replace management with Honduran farmers.
Ain't no way.
Here's a story we got from WBTV. This is funny. 30,000 students actually absent Monday from Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, despite initial reports, officials say. The initial report was that 20,000 students were absent. 20,000 students were absent. What we're hearing is two different things. The first is that these are students who walked out in protest. They are angry over these raids in Charlotte's Web, they call it. We're actually hearing rumors that it's because many of these kids are from illegal families. They're the children of illegal immigrants, and they're hiding. Some have argued, are there really this many students? Not all 30,000, but are there really that many illegal immigrant students that you see a portion of this as people hiding and fleeing?
I could see that.
There was another report. Someone posted the traffic in Charlotte, and it was all green. And DHS tweeted something like, "You're welcome." This is exactly what we saw in California. And the liberals tried denying it, saying it's not true. The traffic is just fine sometimes. It seems like when DHS goes into an area to arrest illegal immigrants, traffic gets better. I suppose that might indicate what you were saying earlier in the show, that you think the number is actually substantially greater.
I think so. Especially, I mean, if you go back a little bit further, it's not enough. I mean, it's a good place to start. You got to start somewhere. But it's not enough just to look at the last 4 years under the auto pen and say we want to right that ship. There's a ton of people who are not Americans. I mean, we have politicians. We have, people in Congress, people in the Senate who are not Americans. I mean, like Ilhan Omar. It's
pretty crazy.
She doesn't just need to be unseated. She needs to be deported.
Denaturalized. And the question is, look, I'll say the Star Tribune, and this is a quote, said she may have married her brother.
Right.
That's not me. That's not my opinion. Star Tribune said she may have married her brother. They wrote that, meaning there is evidence she did. It's not been proven in a court of law, but that would disqualify her. That is perfectly within the denaturalization and deportation proceedings in this country. Here's the post from Homeland Security. You got Charlotte Suburbia. Look at that. No traffic.
Nice.
No traffic. And they put "you're welcome." Now, the interesting thing is, we've seen this before. I think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this doesn't mean the roads are empty. It just means there's less.
Right.
Less cars. Yes. So that means the people who live and work in Charlotte, who aren't illegal, just drove to work very quickly.
Right. And had a great day. But so that's traffic. When you think of all the different elements that would change, like think about people who are waiting for a kidney transplant. Think about hospital waits. Think, showing up to the emergency room. Think about food banks. Think about how it would affect, of course, taxes, welfare and all those kinds of things. And then you think about traffic. You think about housing prices, right? So you have an entire generation that is hopeless, right? Gen Z, I mean, all of them pretty much just, I mean, you talk to any young person under the age of 25, under the age of 35, honestly, and say, hey, do you think you'll ever own a home? And they just, they'll just laugh, or maybe cry, depending what mood they're in that day, but like, but when you think about in Texas, in my state, if you got rid of all the immigrants that have come based off of, projections and, and suspicions, just over the last, let's say 5 to 6 years, what it would do for the housing market, that amount of, it's just simple supply and demand. You're talking about prices coming down 30, 40%, house prices. So you're talking about home ownership. You're talking about jobs, certainly, being able to get a job. Talking about hospitals. You're talking about medicine. You're talking about traffic. Think about grocery prices. If we actually did what they're talking about with SNAP and make sure it's not being abused and all these different things, what you're talking about is being able to have a country. The reason we don't have a country right now, and you have entire generations of people that are completely disenchanted and hopeless, is because we've chosen the world over America. We've chosen the immigrant over the citizen.
Have you seen the show Pluribus?
I've heard of it.
Watch it. I've been talking about it quite a bit because I think it's relevant, as it basically is saying, give up. The world is over. You will live a lonely life where you talk to nothing but the AI.
You don't think that's too deep? I've watched the first 3 episodes. That kind of is a heck of an interpretation.
There's a scene in the 3rd episode where she says, of the people who are not integrated,
the 11
that don't speak English,
Oh.
Are there any, she said, are any of these people experts or scientists or doctors? And the Hive person goes, yes, Takeshi is an excellent udon noodle chef. And she goes, what? That's not what I asked. That interaction was clearly a sign of AI. AI doesn't understand so it's like she asked it, are there any experts in science, because she wants to undo the Hive? Yeah. And it responded with, he makes noodles. AI does this all the time.
He's an expert at noodles.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't understand the context. Now, any actual human hive mind with the summation of human knowledge would literally understand it. Or it hands her a hand grenade.
Yeah.
And they're like, we weren't sure if you were sarcastic. That's an AI response. A single human of any culture would understand saying nothing. She said something like, there's not a thing in this world that would make my life better save a hand grenade. And they're like, okay, here you go. Clearly, they're making reference to the AI. Now, I bring this up because we were talking earlier about universal income, what this country is going to be. And it seems like our leaders are ignoring everything you're saying and driving pedal to the metal to building data centers. Mm-hmm. I think all of this stuff we're looking at is them dangling the keys to our left. So we're all jumping up and down and swatting at them while they are shutting down our refineries, building data centers, buying up properties, and planning to go full AI hive, where you're going to live in the pod, eat the bugs, and plug your brain into the matrix.
You'll own nothing and be happy.
Exactly.
And they're building...
which is a feudal serf situation. That's kind of what I'm saying. And here's again, not a prescription. I'm not saying I like that. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's even biblical or anything like that. But it does feel inevitable. And what would make that, I think it's bad in a lot of ways. What would make it like suicidal, a whole different degree of bad, unlivable, is if you have that plus globalism. To me, it seems like the only thing that saves us, other than Jesus Christ, is a strong sense of nationalism. Call it America first, America only, whatever you want to call it. But if you're looking at America being the piggy bank of the world, right? That universal income is going to Afghanistan. It's going everywhere. You're importing the world and exporting all of our resources. Then there's not a snowflake's chance in hell of survival. But if there was a tight boundary, we actually got non-Americans out. We actually prefer Americans, heritage Americans, real Americans. And then we win the race against whatever, China or this, that, or the other when it comes to AI. Because that's the rhetoric. That's the argument. Well, if we don't do it, they'll do it and they'll be worse and blah, blah, blah. So there's no brakes on this is what I'm saying. There's no brakes. Nobody's going to slow down the train. Nobody's going to stop and ponder the questions, because some guys are pondering the questions, but they're being told to shut up because, China won't ponder the questions, or, Taiwan won't ponder the question. Russia won't ponder the questions. And so my point is, like, there's a race for survival, and I feel like if you're going to do that, I already have some very, very serious concerns. But at least if you're going to launch the shuttle into the stratosphere, at least close the hatch. Stop. Give us borders, get rid of non-Americans, in Congress, in our leadership, with our politicians, an American-only mentality. I think that Matt Walsh is right. I think that guys who have been saying that, and that doesn't mean that we can't ever help one day in the future, but it's saying, look, our own ship has a massive leak. We've got to fix things at home before we care about our neighbors, across the ocean. A 50-year moratorium on immigration, a 50-year, we don't help anybody, no foreign aid, we're not starting wars, we're not finishing wars. Like, there's Christian Nigerians are being slaughtered right now. I'm a Christian. They are my brothers in Christ. I'm also, though, at the same time, a white American. I love my wife. I love my children. I think I would love to see the day when America could step in. Nicki Minaj was talking about this, and, it's certainly not the worst thing she's ever said. It's one of the better things, so God bless her. I'm not a full-on isolationist for all times and all places. This isn't a timeless principle I'm espousing. It's a timely one, and there is a difference. I would like to see us get to a point where we can say, you know what, they're killing Nigerian Christians. We don't care what color they are. They red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. We're going to send some troops, and let's be honest, it's not that many. You got guys who throw rocks, and then you've got Americans, right? So we're going to go in, send some troops, and we're going to say, I'm sorry, and I'd like to see a Crusader flag, on our way in, like the slaughter of Christians must stop in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and these United States, and stop it. But right now, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can do that one day. Right now, we've got to save home base. We're in trouble.
I want to jump to the story from the Daily Caller. Holy-ish, Sean Ryan aghast as Charlie Kirk's security leader reads texts he allegedly sent university police. In this story, the head of security for Charlie Kirk says he asked the police chief at UVU about roof access, to which he said, I got you covered. For this, Charlie's security team said, why bother checking the roof access or the roof at that point? He also said in another article that they weren't allowed due to local laws to fly drones. However, Frank Turek says they had drone footage of the crowd and drones were being flown. Something is wrong. Now, at the bare minimum, I'm going to call shenanigans on these claims from security, and I think it's worth the conversation with you guys. In these texts, he says, hello, Chief Long. We received this message today from the student group. There is a student roof access pretty close to where Charlie Kirk will be set up at Utah Valley. The Sorensen Student Center has a couple staircases that go up to the walkways up to the roof. The chief responded, you want access to the roof? He says, I was told students have access above us. If this is true, it would be nice to either have it controlled access or allow one of my guys to be there as well if possible. And he said, I got you covered. He said something to the effect of, quote, not even to the effect of, quote, what else am I to do when a command level person from an accredited police department says, I've got this area? He didn't. He said, I got you covered. So they never had controlled access. He didn't have a guy on the roof. And the first question in the Charlie Kirk assassination everybody was asking is, why didn't his security sweep the roof? The sad reality is, if they had a janitor on the roof, Charlie would be alive. So why then is this security company and the police department incapable of having grandma knit a sweater right in front of one of these doors to the roof, or this access to the roof? How is this possible to have happened? Now, Hanlon's and Occam's razor suggest these guys are incompetent.
Yep.
I got to be honest. I got security. I got crazy security. We've got from the highest level former SEAL team guys, current PMCs, and they do wet work. They go on missions into foreign countries to take out bad guys. And when they're here at home, they do executive protection. And when I talked to some of these guys, I said, what do you think? And they're like, BS. They didn't check the roof door. What? And one of these guys said, you put a janitor on the roof. Charlie Kirk's alive. This makes no sense. How did that company not have? Nobody's buying it. One thing I can say is, because I don't know how this happens, is personally, I would never go anywhere near any of these guys who work security for Charlie Kirk. Because it actually is quite simple. When he says, but the police said I got you covered. Why are you hiring private security? Because the police can't do it all, and you don't rely on them. So when we do events in D.C., there's police all over the place. We still have private security guards controlling entrances and exits, and we don't just say, the police are outside, it's good. They said they'll take care of it. No, they said they'll take care of it, and then our security guy goes, talks with them, checks the exits, and then confirms with the private company. I'm curious what you guys think this means, though, or what's going on.
This blows my mind. TPUSA, Turnpike USA, Charlie Kirk, huge, giant, big time, big threats against them, and they're security guards, and they're paid lots of money. Why would they not have anyone even look at the door and see if it's covered, if it's locked or not, with what they're being paid and how special Charlie was and how important it was?
I don't understand why.
0 cents.
When I do security, I talk with the security guards.
Yeah.
They say, okay, Tim, here's the plan, because you have to. There's no circumstance where in any event we do, I just say, I plug my ears. The security guards come and say, okay, Tim, here's the plan in the event of an emergency. Here are your exits. Here's what we intend to do. We're going to have 2 guys here, 2 guys here. I drive in the car with them, and they talk with me while we're going of like what the plan is. I don't understand how Charlie was unaware, because maybe they really didn't think there was going to be a threat, to be honest. They thought they were in friendly territory, nothing could happen.
Maybe he delegated that authority out to someone else. And, because he's kind of, TPA is kind of huge. So he might have delegated the security to someone else to his.
They're with Charlie. They're standing next to him.
I know, but he, for stuff out in the buildings, the stairway, he might have delegated.
Who did?
Charlie might have.
Yeah, see, that doesn't happen. This is why I'm saying this makes
no sense.
I know.
I get it. I'm agreeing, but what he might have done as Charlie Kirk might have done.
We've had security where I want to keep. I don't want to expose any kind of security faults or anything like that. We've had circumstances where we were like, "Hey, security." I want to equate this to something like a rooftop, a security exit, like a vantage point or a security issue, and we bring it up to security right away. I don't understand how this is possible, other than, look, to be honest, it's even hard to just believe incompetence. It really is. But that's where I'm going with Hanlon's razor. But my point, I say ultimately, is I'm shocked that anyone would take these statements seriously. Head of security saying, well, the cop said it was fine, so it was. This is ridiculous. We call the local police department before doing an event, and they say, you'll be fine. We still hire private security to secure the area. This doesn't. So I can simply say I think these guys are beyond incompetent, but I can certainly understand why then you're going to get millions of views on videos claiming something else is going on.
Yeah. I think the whole thing's fishy. I think you assuming incompetence is very charitable.
Hanlon's razor.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence of anything else. So although I think a lot of people are like, this is fishy, I agree. He also, according to a report, he said he couldn't fly a drone. And Frank Turk said they had a drone. So why would he say that? However, unless there's actual evidence to indicate other than just fishy, then I go with Hanlon's razor.
I get it. Yeah. I think it's, I get that. What do you think? I'm curious because I haven't tuned in, and I'm sure you've talked about this. I'm sure you have a theory. What do you think about the Google searches?
What do you mean?
Searches for like the VIN number on the getaway airplane.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay, so one theory is that like Tyler James Robinson, middle name included, full name searched before the execution
who searched what
actually took place. I'll get there. So multiple Google searches, one being his full name, Tyler James Robinson, another one being the VIN number on the getaway. I'm getting there on the getaway plane, and then also the pilot of the plane, his name being searched, the exact town, all these kinds of things were searched between the TPUSA event that took place that Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith both spoke at, that a lot of people were upset about. A certain group of people in particular, and the actual assassination of Charlie Kirk. In between those time period, which was a matter of weeks, these Google searches took place, and they took place in Israel. And the only exception,
what's the proof of that?
And the only exception, well, that's a good question. I'm asking you, have you heard about it? What do you think about it? This is
I've not heard about it, and I would say I've not heard about it, and I would say that the ability to collect evidence of Google searches that's internal Google data, which would have to be leaked by a whistleblower. I don't believe that's real. That sounds made up.
Sounds made up. Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, from what I've heard is that people did this did the searches themselves before they were scrubbed and found it after the fact, after the assassination.
Found what though?
And found that these things had been searched. And
how do you find that someone else somewhere searched for a thing?
I don't know. It's just a working theory that I've heard.
Well, I wouldn't even call it a theory. I mean, that sounds like how can you search for what someone else searched for in a certain region?
I don't know.
You can't.
I don't know.
You can look at Google Trend data, I suppose.
I think that's what it was, like looking at the trend, but then the searches were erased later on.
I mean, this sounds like someone made something up and just claimed
it. Maybe. But that's
watching Candace.
But the point is,
I don't think Candace is anything that crazy.
I'm just throwing that out there.
But like you've got that. You've got, I mean, just even a 30 Yacht 6, like getting, who was it that said like even in Charlie's final moments he was saving the lives of people behind him.
Yeah, it was cool that
superhuman, But
that's. I mean, look.
I'm just saying.
None of this is.
It seems fishy to me. It doesn't seem like just incompetence. It seems like lies.
Certainly, there seem to be things that are fishy, but everyone grandstands at a eulogy, right? I mean, Charlie's murdered, and the bullet doesn't penetrate, and so they write this grandiose thing to like make Charlie seem larger than life.
Right.
People do this all the time.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, why someone would write that. That makes sense.
To be fair, why someone would write that is they have no media experience and don't know how to do PR or communications. And so they're like, I'm going to write something that makes Charlie seem magic, and all it does is make things worse. Or, to get straight into the weeds, when Candace came out with these messages from Charlie, and then Colvett went on the Charlie Kirk show and said, yes, they're all real.
Right.
That's PR 101 no-no. That is like 18-year-olds' first day in college. They say, if you're unsure of what's going on, say nothing. Like, you don't go on your show and just be like, what Candace is saying is true, but. Because it doesn't matter what your but is.
Right.
So my argument is, as much as it may be perceived as somewhat derisive to Andrew Colvett, I just don't think he understands PR. He doesn't understand communications. So he writes this message about Charlie's strong bones, and it's like, you don't do that.
But aside from what he wrote, still just the ballistics, the actual mechanics.
Yeah, none of that's fishy.
That gun.
Yeah, but
none of that's fishy.
Bullets do really weird stuff when they hit a medium, whether it be going into a body or going into, bullets just do weird things. So the idea that it's impossible that the bullet went into his neck and then hit his spine and, deflected or something like that or whatever. You hear all kinds of stories of people that get shot with a, 5.56 or with a 30 caliber bullet, and it enters here, and then because it hits the bone, it travels across their body and comes out in other places. Bullets do really weird things. So the idea that it must impact in the neck and then come out behind it, that is actually not realistic.
Cody's got to bounce.
Oh, you got to split. All right.
Yeah, I'm going to go get on another podcast, the Inverted World podcast.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to point out is the same guy that I'm talking to, who's like a former SEAL team guy, who told me, I don't buy it for a second. You check the doors. I mean, this is basic security. Bro, I worked security at a venue, and when I was 21, and I'm like, I weigh 150 pounds, 5'10", and they're like, your security, stand by this door, make sure someone doesn't walk through it. They don't expect me to fight anybody or shoot anybody or anything like that. They just needed someone staring at it with a walkie-talkie.
Right.
The same guy said, he told me as soon as it went down and the videos went viral, he went 30-06. And he was like, I knew exactly the ranges. I told my wife, man, I wish I was recording. I wish I made a video because I called it perfectly. And he's right. There's also a report that came out. There's a lot of people. This is fascinating to me. The first thing everyone said was it must be a professional hit because from that range, it's too difficult. And that's a range a 12-year-old makes after an hour of training. People just genuinely do not understand what they're talking about. There was a peer-reviewed academic report that we covered that was old, that was re-highlighted. People have been like, guys, stop. There's a whole bunch of documented cases throughout modern warfare where it's like larger bullets did not penetrate because it hits bone, deflects, or otherwise. And so what happens is, this is why I can't stand the conspiracy theory people, because what are we looking at right now? I, with my experience in security, can tell you outright, this doesn't make sense for a security company to know roof access exists and not to check it. That's just like, you are worse than Walmart security. I'm sorry, man. Like, some of the security guys,
You're saying no conspiracy, but also it doesn't make sense. So again, just competent.
I'm saying the issue I take with the conspiracy people is they do things like, did you see how Charlie moved? It had to have come from behind. And this proves it because there's a bush in front of him. I literally had this debate. See that bush in front of him? That's where the shooter really was. And I said, so the bullet looped around his back? They do these things where they say stuff like, had to have been a professional. The range was too far. And then all of these people with no experience start spreading that nonsense, and it makes it difficult to actually break through what's going on. So here we have a real story where I can tell you, as someone who's worked with multiple security teams, ranging from Walmart level security to active PMCs who go do, things in dangerous countries for lots of money.
Go and do stuff.
And they're going to tell me stuff that, like, we find this strange. And I go, that's interesting. That should be pursued. And then you get people coming out being like, we're tracking flight logs for planes. And it's like, yeah, somebody had a private jet. Doesn't prove anything. There's one video that I went through that, again, they're looking at Turning Point's 990 forms. Turning Point hasn't filed for 4 of their main shells, which is odd because every year on May 15th, they filed. This guy who makes the video goes, why are the 990s missing? And it's like, well, calm down there. They're not currently available because October filing was a month ago. It doesn't mean they were missing. It doesn't mean they're destroyed, but he frames it as such. This guy made a video and he goes, he's like, on September 2nd, Charlie Kirk wrote a memo saying they were bringing on a new CFO and they were going to have a Doge-style audit. 1 week later, he was killed. And then Tyler Boyer on X says they're not doing the audit anymore. Why aren't they fulfilling Charlie's wishes with the audit? When in fact, Tyler Boyer said, we do an audit every year and we'll keep doing so. So these conspiracy guys twist things and make it so we can't actually figure out what's going on. That's what I can't stand.
Yeah. So
and then, with all due respect, you say, I heard there were Google searches in Israel, and I'm like,
I wanted to hear what you thought. So here's another one.
I'll tell you what I think. I think if there is deep state or any kind of conspiracy, they post things like that so that you won't question the obvious, and it makes people actually looking into it go off in weird directions that a regular person will call you crazy over. If I go to a regular person and say, did you know that Charlie's security team admitted they were aware of roof access and didn't check it? They'll say, really? I'll be like, text messages right here. They went on the Sean Ryan podcast and said it. And they're going to be like, that is weird. And then if I go, and also in Israel, they were searching on Google because someone found the files, they're going to say, you're a lunatic. Yeah. It is well known that, and I would say actually if there is evidence of a conspiracy, it's that post, not because it was Israel, but because someone's trying to throw you off the trail. It could just be crazy people online. But as with Pizzagate, one of the things that intelligence agencies do to stop actual digging into their malfeasance is to throw out false evidence to make you run in the wrong direction. This is why a guy showed up to Comet Ping Pong with a gun and fired into their floor because he was looking for the basement. The WikiLeaks emails from the DNC contained some kind of evidence of wrongdoing. And as people started digging through them, and we know for a fact that the intelligence agency of the United States were very pissed off about this. They wanted to kill Julian Assange over it. So what are they going to do? Nothing? All of a sudden, weird fake evidence pops up and some lunatic goes and shoots the floor of a pizza place. Whatever was actually going on with those emails, I think is worth digging into, but it tricked all of the online sleuths who are tracking this decentralized into going off into retard land.
Yeah. What do you think? Another question, because you guys have probably followed it more than I have. What did we ever get answers for the old guy who immediately tried to be a diversion and stood up?
He's a well-known guy from the official report. He's a well-known guy at the university who wasn't allowed to be there, who routinely causes problems and makes veiled threats and things like this. And he claimed that he got up and screamed because he was trying to help the actual shooter escape. So this is the important thing to understand about the left that we've already talked quite a bit about, the standalone complex.
Right.
When it came to the 2020 election, many people thought there was a coordinated effort to steal the election. Maybe, sure, I don't know. However, you don't need that. If you get 1,000 leftists who just think Donald Trump must be stopped at all costs, no one needs to tell them.
Right.
So when they're looking at a ballot and it says Donald Trump, but the signature's mushed, they go, can't read that signature, garbage. Then they pick one up for Biden, signature's mushed, they go, I'm pretty sure it's good. Whether intentionally or otherwise, you get enough people who are cultists and you don't need a conspiracy. So my point here is strange. The guy should be charged an accomplice or otherwise, but we don't really know just yet. I do think it's fair to say there are a lot of weird things in how this played out, but it's also hard to understand what is weird because we don't have these things happening on a day-to-day basis, so we don't have a control for which to compare it to.
Right.
But we got to go to your chats and Rumble rants, and we'll talk more about that for sure in the uncensored portion. Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. And indeed, I did bring it up because I was hoping to have a conversation where we could talk about this, so I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Before we get into your Rumble rants and super chats, we do have a great sponsor for you, my friends. It is Frontline 21. Hold the line. When culture drifts, men anchored in truth rebuild the future. All right, man, let's get real. There's a lot of noise out there about masculinity. You got some screaming that masculinity is toxic. It's not. And the other side pushing a version of manhood. It's all about ego, domination, and pride. Both of those are wrong. It's not strength. It is confusion. Frontline 21 is a 21-day challenge for men designed to help guys rebuild discipline, leadership, and integrity in a world that's trying to tear those things down. It's not therapy. It's not politics. It's personal responsibility. Society's tried to label all strength as toxic, and the result is a generation of disconnected, directionless men. Frontline 21 was built to remind men that real masculinity isn't toxic, it's necessary. The 21-day format works because it's simple and measurable. No lectures, no endless content, just real action, one step every day. It builds confidence through consistency. Men start seeing results quickly, and it's free. Anyone can start right now at frontline21.com. Go to frontline21.com, download your free field guide, and join thousands of men taking the 21-day challenge. Shout out. But let's grab your rants and chats. All right, we got Dominion After Dark saying MAGA just needs to vote harder because only voting has ever in history changed a bad government into a good government.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened in history?
The other way. It's voted in
other way.
bad governments.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
can vote your way in, but shoot your way out.
Sailor Motoko says, Tim, I wish Trump would do something. Trump expresses desire to do something. Tim, whoa, slow down there, Mr. President. JK. Let me clarify. I say, man, I wish Trump would do something, like criminally charge and arrest several people on actual government corruption. Trump then says, sedition, punishable by death. And I'm like, wait, stop, slow down. I didn't mean that. Bro, I want to see some perp walks, not you screaming death. Yikes.
That's very Trumpian, though.
It is indeed.
It is.
Straight to 10.
All right. The legend Dano says, I don't want to hear it from the left about Trump calling for death. They wish for all of us to die. They all celebrated Charlie. They said if only crooks had better aim. They're the death cult.
Yes.
I'll give it to the establishment, though, who put out their tweets saying, warm wishes to the Kirk family and things like that. All right. Mythos says to the pastor, feudalism was ended by mass death, causing a job shortage. I doubt with the low birth rate, it's going to come back to feudalism. Yeah, it was after the Black Plague, right?
Yeah, and so I don't understand. I don't understand the point.
We're not going to go towards feudalism because population's collapsing.
Like we don't have enough people. I feel like
I think
America we have too
saying
many people.
The population collapses on purpose. The EBT shutdown, all of it seems to line up perfectly for the elites building an AI world where you're going to get in a pod, stick the roach tube in your mouth where it pumps roach mush into your belly, and then you plug the Neuralink into your brain, and then go to your magic universe and do whatever you want.
That's what it seems like. Yeah, I would just say to that comment, like maybe if America actually closed its borders, if we didn't have a bunch of people, and maybe we get some reprieve for the next 3 years or whatever, but our population is not collapsing. Yes, birth rates are exceedingly low. Not with everyone, not with every country, not with every not with every tribe and every group of people, but with Europeans, yes, birth rates are low. And if America was actually a closed country, then yeah, we could have population collapse. But I don't see that happening. I see our population increasing because we're importing people in.
So we have this, a good point from Mythos. He says, yeah, you don't want to be shooting a gun when you're covered in gasoline. That's a truly terrible idea. You are correct. Indeed, if you are drenched in gasoline, it is the fumes that ignite. In fact, the wet gasoline doesn't burn. My dad's a firefighter. We were watching a movie and a guy flicks a cigarette into the gasoline and it lights and he goes, it wouldn't happen. The gas would just put the cigarette out. However, that being said, good sir Mythos, I'm pretty sure every single person everywhere, if covered in gasoline and armed, and a man was walking towards them with fire intending to light them, they would try and shoot the person, even if it meant they'd get ignited. Because at least there's a chance you don't ignite, depending on how much gasoline's on you, depending on how you're holding the gun. You could even try and do something so that if it does, you can drop, whatever's ignited. Who knows?
Take them with you as well.
I don't think that's a reasonable thing to say. The point is simply stop them from trying, and you may very well ignite, but at least you're not guaranteed to, and you stop the killer. Potentially because that person trying to kill you might try to kill others. All right. Han says Crockett is lying. FEC files includes address, not just name, so easy to cross-check with Google. Indeed.
She's a dirty, dirty person. I'm so glad they changed the districts in Texas.
Well, they lost that.
What?
Yeah, the court struck it down.
Son of a gun.
It's an appeal, though. We'll see what happens. Yeager says, if we keep letting Islam in, they're going to do the same thing they did in the UK. Vote with the left to gain power, then subvert it for their own. We are not focusing on this enough. Look at Dearborn.
Yeah, look at.
But it's not even an issue of voting because when we have this conversation, it's like, oh, voting's never done anything. You don't need incitement. You don't need someone to be told what to do. It's not a reality. If it gets to the point where, actually, I'll just pause. The other day, we saw protesting in Dearborn. Christian and Muslims were fighting. And there were people throwing bacon at the Muslims and setting Qurans on fire. No one needs to incite that. It's going to happen because ideologies clash. Multiculturalism does not work.
True.
ADD hoarding procrastinator says Americans, not untalented, just beaten down. They seen others in their family and their family destroyed by lawyers. GOP must strike back at Dems with bigger stick. Wow. All right. Wichelkowski, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
In the Timcast tradition, my wife and I welcomed our twins into the world this morning. Welcome to the world, Maisie and Hayes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Twins too. Maisie and Hayes, I like it.
Have more babies.
Yeah.
Han says, if houses went down 30 to 40%, you would have boomer uprisings. Look at the Stop Kings protest when they felt Social Security and Medicare were threatened. They came out. Yep.
That is true.
I love that point about The Simpsons that was made yesterday by Brett. The Simpsons is the perfect boomer show. Their Marge is canonically 37 years old. Nothing's changed. Like Skinner is still living with his mom, and he served in Vietnam, which is 50 years ago. Actually, it's longer than 50 years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Marge is canonically 37. Yeah, Homer was. I think they made him 42 now, though. When the show started, I think Homer was 38 years old.
Good Lord.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he had 3 kids. And he
What's
was
it been 30 years? How long?
Simpsons.
Was it
longer than that, actually.
Really?
Yeah, that would be
90
36, 37 years. I think 37
Just
years.
looked this the other day.
It was 19. Well, actually, the launch was it 89 when the show started?
Yeah.
I don't know.
89.
And all that matters is that season 3 to season 9 was some of the best of human creativity and culture ever.
37 seasons.
Yeah, 37 seasons.
Tracy Ullman show.
That was the first.
Yep.
Yeah. But it was a very different show when it was.
Yeah, and if you watch the Tracy Ullman version, it is extremely weird. Yeah. Like they're all like the drawing, the art has really progressed and stuff. So
indeed.
Beltfed says, Tim, I love your show and I've watched from the beginning, but this team was experienced and recommend watching the full interview to get the whole story. I respect your post, but I have to stress again, there is no circumstance where you are like, there's roof access, someone else will take care of it. It just doesn't happen. I'm sorry. That is not fair to say it's an experienced team. I've worked with security guys. We've contracted some security companies where they have zero experience at all. I'm not trying to be a dick, but a 5'5", morbidly obese Latina woman showed up with a gun. And they had better, and they're like, let us know where all the entrances and exits are, where you want us to be. And, it's like, to be honest, when this happened, we were like, hey, we can't do this again. This is not appropriate. We need SEAL team guys. My point is we have worked from the lowest to the highest levels. And I've never experienced something as egregious as there's roof access on the building, someone else will take care of it. But it was the cops. No, this is mind-blowing to me that he said that. I've been in so many instances where they're like, we've talked to the police already. We're going to make sure we have guys stationed outside. Yeah, the police are going to be there and we'll have a guy alongside them. And then our guy is standing there in a suit next to 3 cops. I'm flabbergasted. And people need to understand that Charlie Kirk was running an organization that brought in $86 million. Barry Weiss has, what does she have, like 10 bodyguards? What was the story? No, I'm sorry. We talked about how they're spending $10,000 a day or whatever on bodyguards. She's surrounded all the time. This is normal. It shouldn't be how it is. But again, the idea that they were like, we are going into this area with direct line of sight from all the surrounding buildings. We know there's roof access. We literally won't check it. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, damn, sorry, dude.
You can have a lot of experience at your job and not be good at it. Like, I've been doing this for 20 years, but they still never became a supervisor or whatnot.
When we were at Turning Point, I think it was the first year. It might have been the second year. We did a stunt where Alex Stein jumped up on stage wearing a Biden mask and ran up yelling and like causing problems. I think it was our first year there.
Is that when he took down his pants?
Yeah, and then no. The security guards tried to stop him, but everybody was told what was going to happen. Those security guards got fired. Just because Alex jumped on stage. And it was scripted. And we felt bad. We apologized like, hey, whoa. We're like, no, don't fire him. The security company didn't care because apparently they were like, anybody who saw that, it genuinely looks like our security failed. And we won't have those people on, and we're going to let everyone know that they no longer work here.
That's fair.
And we were like, oh, that's messed up. Because Alex was supposed to come on the show and do the stunt.
That's crazy.
So imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that these guys got fired from their job because someone jumped on stage, and now people are going to tell me this security team was really good. Not happening. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I'll tell you this. I wouldn't touch that security team with the 10-foot clown pole.
Agreed.
All right. Quantum Strange Quark says Secretary Hegseth should implement a refresher course on the Constitution and follow the president's orders for all service members to counter the Democrats' incitement to encourage dissent in the ranks. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. That one gamer says, playing devil's advocate, why even leave any room for Dems to twist Trump words? I feel like both sides are playing accelerationism. This is completely stupid. I don't know what that means. All right. Wolfsbane says, we just learned we're expecting our second next July. Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations, man.
Wonderful news. More babish.
Babies.
More
Always
babies.
get sent to the island.
Isa says, Tim, these people were just saying 86-47. Well aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Ian Kinney says, Tim, a Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin couple is challenging village regulations after being cited for keeping chickens on their property, highlighting a broader debate about backyard poultry across Wisconsin. We need the 28th Amendment. Yes, we do. For those that are not familiar.
Make it so.
That would be a beautiful thing. You know, you're allowed to have livestock.
We're actually going to be launching a new version of the 20th Amendment board.
Oh, you got it up?
So, it's actually sold out now completely. Wait, what? I said we should keep this. I guess when it's gone, it's gone. The 20th Amendment is a joke, for those that aren't familiar, that I made for my pro model skateboard with this nice little doodle of a chicken. And it says, it's a rooster, by the way. The 20th Amendment, chickens being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep, bear, and breed chickens shall not be infringed. And this turned out to be one of our highest selling skateboards. And it's completely sold out. We were back ordered like 100. So we're going to be making an updated version with some slightly better design with a limited edition release as well. We were intending on retiring all of the old boards. We were going to keep the team models. Oh man, even the Boonies Declaration sold out. Yikes! We'll have to get this going. Be Gay and Don't Be Gay, both still available. But we ended up keeping the 20th Amendment because of how popular it was. That I guess people really like their chickens, as do I. Yeah. My friends. We're going to go to the uncensored portion of the show, so smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Make sure you join the Discord server if you want to call in and talk to us and be a part of the community. We've got special events. We're planning a lot more. We are just getting started with making the Timcast membership way bigger, way better. And I got to stress, my friends, Mamba Collectibles in Martinsburg is going to be our clubhouse. The first Cast Brew location. The card shop is currently open, active. Go over there and play your Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or whatever you want to do. Just hang out in general. We're currently talking with Ian and Andy about setting up our Friday night show at Mamba Collectibles, where we will play D&D and Magic, and y'all can hang out and be a part of the member special events. We got to work out exactly how we do it. Security, of course, is going to be an issue, but it's going to be fun. So please join us at timcast.com. Click that Join Us button. Joel, do you want to shout anything out?
No, just follow us on YouTube. Check out Right Response Ministries on YouTube. And then on X, if you want to give me a follow, I appreciate it. It's at Right Response M, as in ministries, at Right Response M. And we've got some pretty cool content coming out. Right now, but especially in January, we have a 10-part series with a special guest that's going to be coming out that I think a lot of people will be talking about.
Right on.
We're on. Joel, good talking to you. Some really great valid points today. If you are scared and are nervous to go to a church, just do it. You might like it. It's pretty neat. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. Follow me on X or Raymond G. Stanley Jr. Rock and roll, Phil.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. The band is All That Remains. We just did a cool merch drop in collaboration with Puck Hockey. Got a bunch of cool, jerseys. You got some basketball jerseys, some hockey jerseys. You can check all that stuff out at puckhockey.com. That's puckhcky.com. Go check that stuff out. If you want to check out the band, you can check out All That Remains on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and Deezer. Don't forget, The Left Lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out.